Hello and welcome to Craft with Sarah and day 10 of the Christmas Craft Countdown, where I'm sharing 20 festive-themed Cricut projects in 20 days. Half of the projects are designed by me, and half are guest designer projects from some of my crafting friends. Today's project is by Gina C. Creates, and it's this adorable mandala snowman shaker paper craft. Gina runs a crafting blog that specializes in Cricut crafts, free SVG files, and DIY projects. Her passion is creating new projects and drawing SVG designs by hand on her iPad Pro. She found her calling when she received her first Cricut machine and started sharing her project designs with her fellow crafters. I am very excited for this project as I love making layered paper crafts with my Cricut machine, and this little snowman is so cute. I love the little shaker dome behind him too, filled with artificial snow. Let's get started! The files for this project are free for the next 24 hours. Here's how to download them. First, register a free ticket for the Christmas Craft Countdown at craftwithsarah.com/Christmas23. Click any of the buttons on the page and enter your name and email to register. If you're already registered, check for an email from me with subject line Christmas Craft Countdown ticket information, or any of the other emails from me that you have been sent throughout the countdown. Can't find them? Check your junk or spam box to see if they've gone there by mistake. These emails contain the link to view the countdown projects and download today's files. Scroll down the page to find today's project. Click the button to start the files automatically downloading to your computer or mobile device. Each download is only available for free for 24 hours after it goes live. If you've missed some, check out the Instant Access Bundle at craftwithsarah.com/Christmas23 bundle, which gives immediate and ongoing access to all of the files from the Christmas Craft Countdown, plus loads of extra bonus designs. All downloads come in zip folders. You need to unzip them before you can upload the files into Cricut Design Space.
Hi everyone, I am Gina from Gina C. Creates. Thank you so much for joining me. For today's project, I am going to show you how to create this adorable layered snowman shaker. It's going to be great to decorate your house for the holidays. My layered snowman shaker is roughly 7 by 10 inches, and I created a stand in the back so you can put it on the counter or your table or up on a mantle, and it can stand up all by itself. It can make a great addition to your Christmas decorations or make a great gift for somebody else. I will show you all the necessary steps you will need to create this with your Cricut machine. Here are a few supplies you will need to get started. I will be using my Cricut Explore Air 2, and I'm going to use a standard grip mat, but you can also use a light grip mat. We are going to assemble this together with some foam tape and some Bearly Art craft glue. You'll also need an X-Acto knife or a blade or a pair of scissors so we can cut through our foam tape. And then totally optional, you can use blue painter's tape to hold down your cardstock on the mat just to give it some nice extra security. And you will need a Cricut scoring stylus and a Cricut scraper to clean your mat. And you will need some type of confetti. I am using fake snow to give it that snowy feel. And it kind of looks like the chunky iridescent glitter. And you can also use some Palmer clay snowflakes. So it's up to you on what you want to put inside your shaker. But you'll also need a sheet of acetate and of course some cardstock. I am using 2 shades of orange to make the carrot nose. For these, you don't need a big sheet. A small sheet will be fine. And I'm using a dark red as well. And then I have a plain black. And then I have 2 sheets of the light turquoise. And then I have 2 sheets of the light blue. And these are all regular cardstock with a 65 pound in weight. And for my specialty cardstock, I am using 4 different kinds. I have a foil red cardstock, and then I have a foil gold cardstock, and I have a holographic foil cardstock, and then I have a 1 sheet of the white glitter cardstock. And to get started, we are going to download my free SVG at the Christmas Countdown. And inside you will find the Layered Snowman SVG. If you're on a Windows PC, it might also display as a HTML document, but that is still the SVG and it will upload correctly. And then you'll have my free licensed PDF that you can read, and it just tells you the use of my file, which you can make for yourself and for friends. So you need to just open up Design Space and upload the SVG. And so you're going to go to your downloads folder, and we are going to upload the SVG file. And then we're going to save it to our library and then add it to our canvas. It should upload as 7 inches in width, and you can definitely resize this if you like. I just recommend not going smaller than 4 inches in width. Next, we can ungroup the SVG and select the blue triangle shapes. These are the stands for the back, and they do have cut lines sitting on top of them. We're just going to switch them to score lines. So you just select them in the layers panel and you go down to operations and hit score. And then we are going to just select the whole group and hit attach. And this will attach the score lines on top of the blue shape. Next, we can move on to our shaker layers. So we just need to move our snowman out of the way. So you can select the shaker and move it to the side. We could grab our snowman and bring it to the other side. So our shaker layers with the Christmas trees, we just ungroup this, and you will find that the base has 2 layers, and then we have the shaker frame. So let's just move that to the side so we can see all the layers we are working with. Next, we have the Christmas tree layer that goes on the back. And then we have our light blue solid back piece. And then we have our gray layer, which is the acetate layer. And this actually goes under the frame layer to act as your shaker. So you can change the colors of these so it can match your Christmas decor or your favorite Christmas colors. So you could just select each layer and go up to the color swatch to change the colors of those layers. And then once you have it set as the colors that you want, you can just set these aside and we don't need to do anything further. So I'm just going to put it back how I designed it. And then we are going to go to the snowman layer, and I'm just going to break it down for you so you can see all the layers of the snowman. And this project is ready to cut. So if you prefer the colors that I have, you can just click make it. But if you want to customize this for your own colors, you would just need to ungroup and do as I'm doing right now. So we can ungroup the snowman layer, and then we are going to select his face and hands, and then you can change the colors of these if you like. And those are all individual pieces, so you would just need to set those on top when you are putting this together. And we have our carrot nose, and we have the hat. The carrot nose is only 2 layers, and for our hat it has a total of 3 layers. And this will just give our hat some dimension when we put it together with some cardstock and foam tape. So you can also ungroup the hat again, so you can select each layer and change the colors if necessary. So you could get as creative as you want, changing the colors and using different types of cardstock. Maybe you can even try out some pattern cardstock. So it's up to you on what colors you want this to be. And then next you have the snowman scarf, which is just 2 layers. And this is what I'll be using the dark red and the foil red cardstock for. And then for our snowman with the mandala design, we are going to just use the glitter white cardstock. And for the back piece that is gray, we're using the holographic cardstock. So once you have these all changed to the colors you want, or if you don't need to resize or change the colors at all, you are just ready to click make it. And then we're going to take a look at our mats and make sure all our layers are within our cardstock area. So you can change your material size to 8.5 by 11 if that's the size cardstock you're working with. We just want to double check and make sure that you're not going to cut off any of the shapes. And as you can see, we have a total of 13 mats, I believe. And just make sure you're cutting on the appropriate setting for the type of cardstock you are using. I'm first going to start with the glitter cardstock. So you want to make sure your mat is nice and clean. So you're going to use that Cricut scraper. And we are going to just scrape at an angle to make sure that we get off any little tiny debris. And this will help when cutting, that our blade doesn't get snagged or our paper won't rip on anything that is underneath. So once you have it ready to go, we're just going to lay our cardstock down, and I'm going to use some blue painter's tape just to help hold it in place, because I like working with a dull standard grit mat versus a super sticky mat, because sometimes when you go to pull off your cardstock, it can tend to curl or rip. So I just like to do it this way so I could get those nice clean cuts every time. And for my glitter cardstock, I just cut on the custom setting for glitter cardstock. And when you want to take it off the mat, you flip it over and you bend back your mat and you hold your paper down with the other hand. And then if you have any small pieces still intact, you could just poke them out and they should pop right out. And then next we are going to make sure we clean our mat again with our Cricut scraper to get all those tiny pieces off and to remove any glitter before we lay down our next sheet of cardstock. For my standard cardstock and the foil cardstock and my acetate layer, I just cut on Cardstock Plus using my dial on the Cricut Explorer Air 2. So now we could just go ahead and finish cutting out the rest of our layers, and then we can begin to assemble. we have everything cut out, we can begin to assemble. So we have our 2 pieces for the stand, we have our shaker, and then we have our snowman with his details that go on top. So the first thing we're going to assemble is our snowman. And we're going to start with the 2 bottom layers. And we're going to flip over the mandala layer. And we're going to apply some foam tape to the back. So you can use your X-Acto knife or scissors. And you could just cut strips on your foam tape and then place them on the back of our snowman. And you just want to put it in places where we have the solid pieces first. And then you want to make sure you put it on the edges of the hat and on the bottom where his feet are. And then you can put some small foam tape strips on the arms and the hand. And then in random spots on the mandala surface. And then once you have all your foam tape applied, we are just going to flip it over and place it directly on top of our holographic solid piece. And then next we're going to layer on the rest of the snowman. And we're going to use some more foam tape to layer our scarf together. So just make sure you have it facing the correct way and then flip over the top layer and add the foam tape on the back. And then we're going to add more foam tape to the bottom layer and sit it directly on top of our snowman. And for the hat, I'm going to use some craft glue to put on his red ribbon. And then for his bottom hat layer, I'm just using some foam tape to give it some depth. And then on the back of the hat, we're going to apply more foam tape and place the hat directly on top of his head. And then now we can add his arms and legs and carrot nose. And I just like to lay it out on top first so I know where it's going. And I'm going to use the craft glue to hold it down in place. And I didn't knock out the face for the snowman because I figured you guys can arrange it how you want. If you want the eyes farther apart or closer together, or if you're going to make them bigger, smaller, I would let it up to you on how to build your snowman. Next, we're going to move on to our shaker, and you're going to want to clean off your acetate with some soapy water and let it dry, and this will just remove the static from both sides. And we are going to start with the 2 bottom layers, and I'm just going to use craft glue on the back of the Christmas tree layer. And then we're going to flip it over and place it directly on top of our solid piece that is the light blue layer. And make sure you just have glue all around the edges and make sure it stays nice and flat when it dries. And then next we are going to move on to the front frame of the shaker. So we're going to grab our frame and make sure our frame and acetate layer are facing the correct way. And on the back of our frame, I'm just going to add some craft glue all around the edges. And I'm going to lay the acetate layer directly on top of that and let that dry and for a few moments until we add our foam tape. And we're going to place the foam tape around the edges of our frame directly on top of the acetate. So you want to make sure your foam tape is thin from like 1/4 of an inch to a 1/2 inch thick, so it does not show on the front side. And I took off a long strip about 20 inches long and I removed the paper backing so it is easier to curve when you are putting it on top of the shaker. And then you can just finish off the bottom, making sure that there's no gaps for your confetti to fall through. So I just filled up the bottom of the shaker with foam tape so I can make sure that it has a nice frame around the whole back of the shaker.
And before we add our frame on top, we are going to put our confetti in the center. So I'm just adding my fake snow in the middle away from the edges. And then I'm taking my frame and I'm sitting it directly on top to lock in the fake snow. And then you could begin to shake it around once it's all adhered to the sides. And then we are going to add the gold base of our shaker globe. And I'm just using foam tape to layer it on to our shaker frame. So make sure you just add some foam tape to the corners and edges of this piece so it can be nice and solid when you apply it to the bottom of the shaker. And you're going to do the same thing for the top layer. And this just gives it more depth and character to having multiple layers for our shaker. So once we have this last piece on to our shaker, we can apply the snowman to the front. And the feet are going to sit directly on top of the gold base. And then you can position it if you want it in the center or off to the left. It's up to you. And I'm just using more foam tape to stick it directly on top of the acetate layer. And then next we are going to add our stand in the back. So we're going to take our two shapes and the tabs are going to go on the inside and the edges of the triangle are going to be right up to the edge of the shaker. So when it's laying flat, the edges aren't sticking out in front of the shaker. Now we're just using glue to the small tabs. And then we're going to let that dry and we'll be able to stand it up and use it for decoration around the house for this Christmas season. I am so happy with how this turned out. It's so fun, festive, and interactive for all guests to enjoy.
I hope you guys enjoyed my workshop on how to create my layered snowman shaker. If you guys make this, make sure to post a picture of your project in Sarah's Facebook group so I can see all your wonderful creations. Thank you so much for joining me, and I hope to see you guys soon.
I hope you enjoyed this video on how to make a mandala snowman shaker paper craft. If you did, please give the video a thumbs up and subscribe to my YouTube channel for loads more Cricut crafts and festive fun. Don't forget, the link to get the cut files for this project is craftwithsarah.com/Christmas23, but they are only free to download for 24 hours after this video goes live. I hope to see you tomorrow for day 11 of the Christmas Craft Countdown. Thank you so much for watching. Bye!